Hello everyone, it's Asha here, giving you a little bit of an overview on the second assessment for the employability module, the world of work. I do have a little bit of a bad throat, so please excuse me if I need to have a little cough, but in between talking to you. But I just wanted to give you an overview of what is expected for this particular assessment. Now, we had a meeting on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, but only 4 of you turned up. So for those of you who have not attended, here is a brief summary. So this assessment is a report, which means that you need to have a very clear way of dividing your work into little chapters. So looking at the assessment brief, you can see that I've given you a guide to what the report could include. So we're starting off with the contents, well, with a cover page, and then I'm looking for a contents page. And eventually, as you can see on the assessment brief, number one heading would be 1, space introduction. In your introduction, you need to talk about your placement. So you may want to say who your placement provider was, or you may actually want to keep it confidential. So you may want to say that the placement was undertaken for a medium-sized hotel based in the West Midlands, which is privately owned and has operated since 1982. So that would be a confidential way of not sharing the name. However, if you think it's appropriate to share the name, and then you're welcome to actually name the company as well. I'm looking for some information about what the company does. This can come from their website, which you can then reference as such. I'm also looking at what your placement was about. So you can see bullet point 1 says state aim and objectives of your placement, and here I'm looking for information about what your role was. So what was it that you were actually doing in that company? I'm also looking at bullet point 2, which is the operating environments. And here I'm looking about what kind of industry the company is in, what type of business it is. Is it private sector, voluntary sector, public sector? And remember that I don't just want you to name it, I want you to use academic theory to actually explain it. So if you say, for example, that it's a private company, I want you to be saying what you know and what it means to be a private company, and that information I want you to get from academic writing. And then if you look at the following bullet point, it says a clear and well-structured analysis of the work-based project. And here I'd like to refer you to page number 2 of your assessment brief, which states assessment criteria. And there you will see that I asked you to have a look at a couple of issues that were actually positive in your placement in terms of the way the company operates. And then I want you to look at a couple of negative matters which you identified in your placement. So this is not necessarily about you and how you were treated, but about how the company operates. So in terms of the positives and negatives, I want you to refer back to the knowledge that you gained from the modules that you have already done in your first semester and second semester. So this could be around HR, it could be marketing, for example, if you like, or any other business-related issue. So here I'm looking at things such as, for example, communication or, say, promotion. It could be staff development and so on. You need to come up with an issue that was both positive and then negative. So back to your report structure, we're looking at number 1, which is an introduction. Number 2 could be assessment of, or something similar, of your placement, and then you could move into the positives, or what the company is doing well, and then you could move on to areas of development, and then you're going to have, I would suggest, maybe a couple of issues for each, for the positive and for the negative. That would, I think, work in terms of the word count that you actually have for this particular assessment. And finally, at the very end will come your conclusion for this particular report. Bullet point number 4, I'm asking you to look at and research from a range of sources. So here you may want to look at Mintel reports. You may want to find any other data. So for example, if, I don't know, something simple like if you worked for a pub, you may want to say how many pubs that place has, or how many pubs there are in the UK if it's relevant, or pubs of that kind of type, whatever it might be. So some kind of figures, some kind of analysis around statistics, so basically numbers. I think a few key points in terms of succeeding in this assessment is, number one is, please do not use any internet-based resources to explain any information. So if you're giving me any theory, if you're explaining, giving any definitions, if you're looking at any of those issues that I mentioned earlier about, say, HR, communication, marketing, and so on, please do not use internet-based resources to explain that. Even if you're giving me quotes, please don't do it from the internet. Do it from academic books and journals. So if you're talking perhaps about, say, communication, be it bad or good, at your placement, I want you to explain that using academic resources. So you can use academic theory for actually giving definitions and explaining what you're talking about. You can give academic theory to explain what happened at your placement, so it may be a positive or a negative, or you may use the theory to actually provide solutions to that problem within your placement. So these are different ways in which you can use theory. Another key to success is making sure that your referencing is correct. I've given you all quite a lot of feedback in assessment 1 to understand how to do it well. If you're unsure, then there is a great guide, and literally it is great because it's got nearly 30 pages on the Skills for Learning website of our university. So if you just type in Skills for Learning on Google and WLV, it will come up, and there are a lot of resources, so you can self-teach how to do referencing well. I'm available to take your individual assessments and have a look at them until Wednesday this week, so until the 2nd of May, because the assessment is due in on the 4th of May, so that's enough time for you to make any necessary changes. Other than that, if you've got any questions, please come back to me via email. I think I've mentioned all the main points I want you to be looking at. Just one thing, when you look at the assessment brief, please remember that all of it is important. So definitely have a look at the assessment brief, assessment criteria, and also module learning outcomes as well. Okay, good luck. You've done extremely well in the first assessment, so keep up the good work, and I look forward to reading your work when you hand it in. Bye.